Hello, Year 11. I hope you had a nice weekend. Today, we're going to be looking at the Spring Tri-Weekly and doing the feedback lesson. So today you're going to need a pen and your literature exercise book and nothing else. So if you haven't got those two things, go and get them. Then write the title into your book, Literature Spring Tri-Weekly 1 Feedback, and then on to the next slide. But before we get on to that, we're going to do the do now, which does actually directly feed into the feedback lesson. But have a think about this. What is critical style? It's a thing that gets you further up the mark scheme is what it is. But what do you actually think it is? It's quite a hard question. So it's not a test in any way. I'm just interested to know what you think that might be. Right, critical style is simply this. It's a way of approaching your written responses. It involves you setting out an argument in the first paragraph of your response that the rest of your response supports. That is what we're going to be covering today. So when you look at the extract question like you did with Jekyll and Hyde and how is he dealing with the struggle of keeping Hyde under control, that's not actually the question, we'll look at it in a minute, but you would read it and you would have a sort of overall idea and then you would set that out in the first paragraph. Then all your paragraphs talking about language and structure would support that opening statement. That is critical style. That's what gets you that's what gets you up the mark scheme to critical style. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to do that now. So on to the next slide. But here's some general feedback. I fed you all back individually on class charts and given achievement points where it's appropriate, but they were pretty good, most of the responses. So good points were made, but close word analysis was not always included. That is, you make your point. I think this, here's my evidence. These words in my evidence suggest this. That's the thing, you must never forget to do that. Context was missing. Nobody talked about context. Well, no, that's not true. Jasmine, whose work we're going to look at in just a minute, did, and I think one or two of the others of you did. But for the most part, context was missed out. This can be situational context, which just means, sometimes people think of context as being in Victorian times, such and such, but you can say that there was a need to be respectable in this society, and this is why Dr. Jekyll has behaved in this way. That's situational context. Critical statements would improve our work. That's the thing we're going to go over in detail in a minute. And you must remember to use evidence for all your points. And here it is. How does Stevenson present Dr. Jekyll's struggles with his Mr. Hyde in this extract and elsewhere in the novel? So to write a critical statement, which would get you further up the mark scheme, you would read this and you would decide what your overall argument was going to be. So we're going to look at Jasmine's work and we're going to write a critical statement for her. Right, I hope you can see that clearly. This is a very nice piece of work. She got a couple of achievement points for this, so well done, Jasmine, top work. The word suffered shows that Mr. Hyde is slowly suffering. Dr. Jekyll is slowly, oh, I can't read that. Sorry, Dr. Jekyll, I've screenshotted this and I can't read it. The overall argument that she makes is that he's struggling physically and mentally with these with the erratic nature of these changes. That means that these changes are now coming over him all the time. He just falls asleep in the chair and he wakes up as Mr. Hyde, and he's feeling a lot of fear because he's scared that this Mr. Hyde lives in him. I know Jasmine makes that point in the last paragraph. So this is a really nice piece of work. You did miss out on a bit of close word analysis with a couple of your points, but it's a really nice piece of work nonetheless, which would be hugely improved by a critical statement. So I've written one for you. It's on the next slide. So Jasmine's response deals with the fear Jekyll has of Hyde and what physical and mental struggles he will have to contain Hyde. His fear of carrying Hyde with him is causing immense mental pain, while the unpredictable nature of the changes is causing physical pain. That's what that would be a very good critical statement for you, Jasmine. If you could have read that and thought about it before you started and put that in as your opening paragraph, that would have been brilliant. Now the thing is, it can be quite hard to come up with a critical statement because sometimes you really don't know what it is you're going to say. This is where planning comes into its own. If you make a mind map and you pick out the quotes you're going to use and you look at them and you think of broadly what points they're making, you will be able to write a critical statement. Okay? So your task for the feedback lesson is to write 3 paragraphs. One is an introduction in the way that I've written for Jasmine, then 2 paragraphs that include context. So look at your work, work out what the critical statement would have been and write it, and then write 2 more paragraphs that include context. Well done, Year 11, and I will see you next time.